Hello creatives, let's dive right into today's video topic, which is how to heal your love life using art. And what we're going to do is do a series of exercises together where, using our creative abilities, we actually uncover what patterns we're repeating in love and how to break those to move into a more healthy space for our next relationship or our current relationship. Now, regardless of your artistic skill level and regardless of what place you're at in terms of love and relationships in your life, this is for all different types of situations that currently exist. What we're doing is going within, and I'm going to help you actually examine everything in front of you to make a better path forward regardless of where you are. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, as painful as this might be, the best way to move forward into the future is to take a hard look at your past. And even if you've done this before, I still encourage you to do the following exercise because it's going to allow you to look back at what you've already been through with a new set of eyes. So what you're going to do is, for this first exercise, I want you to make a list of all your previous exes and situationships, and I would like you to get a small piece of paper for each one of these items on your list. So if you have 5 people on your list, you'll have 5 little pieces of paper that we're going to make a piece on. Essentially, for this first exercise, what you want to do is you want to list all of the details about each ex. So you're going to list how you met them, where you met them, what kind of played out in the relationship, and why the relationship ended. You're going to write the circumstances, essentially, of this relationship, and we're going to do this on a piece of paper, so don't do anything yet with the little pieces of paper you cut out. Now, once you've done this, what I want you to do is take the little pieces of paper, and what you're going to do is, for each relationship gets one piece of paper, you're going to write the traits of your partner down on the back side of the page. So whatever side you're going to do the artwork on the back side, you want to list the traits of this partner, positive and negative, along with any deal breakers that there were in the relationship. So at this point, you should have a list of the circumstances of each of your previous relationships or flames, and also a list of traits and deal breakers of this partner on the back of the pieces of paper that you cut out. Now, I'm going to show you an example of what we're going to do on the front of the paper. So for this part, you can just do colors, like different colors and shapes that represent what that relationship felt like and looked like. You could do an animal that represents the person or your bond. You could do an illustration of something that they used to like to do. And I'm going to show you now some of the pieces that I made as examples to kind of give you a little bit of inspiration of how you could do this. So here I have a guy skateboarding, a wolf, a mountain range picture, and a picture of a couple kissing in front of the moon and stars. So the imagery you use will be very dependent on the types of situations you're portraying. Just keep in mind, it doesn't have to be negative images unless there were negative emotions in the relationship that dominated it. So if it was a toxic situation, you would want to portray that accurately. But otherwise, you're just trying to do loose, expressive pieces that represent the person. So as you do these exercises, as hard as it might be, I need you to really focus in on how that relationship made you feel energetically. As you're creating these pieces, I want you to feel those emotions again. As hard as it might be, it might take you a little bit to go back to that place, and you might be afraid to travel back to how you might have felt, especially if the relationship was negative or toxic. But this is really essential to help us move forward. There's no wrong way to process this, so if you might get angry or cry or something like that, it's okay, just let it happen. Pause the video and complete these pieces. Now, once you've completed the list of how the relationship looked, the circumstances, and also these illustrations with the qualities of your partner and an illustration to represent them, I want you to flip the illustrations over, look at those traits, and for each of these relationships, I want you to look at the traits you wrote down, and I want you to ask yourself if any of these traits appear in you now or appeared in you during that relationship. So sometimes what we find is that people are our mirrors. So for example, it might not always be clear cut. You might be a very emotionally available person, and maybe you were in some type of situation with an emotionally unavailable person. Now, that doesn't mean that you're emotionally unavailable, because clearly you're very loving and giving, but what a situation like that might reflect is that that person was mirroring a lack of commitment in some other area of your life. So for example, were you not committing fully to your goals, to your friends, to your family, to your spirituality? Usually, if a very negative trait appears in someone else, such as emotional unavailability, it often means that in our own lives, there is some area of ourselves or our lives that we are neglecting and not committing to, just like that person didn't fully commit to us. This would be a great time to pause the video again so that you're actually able to go through each of the pieces that you made, really look at those traits, and as you go back to the time period where you were with this person, really start to ask yourself what they were reflecting back to you, if anything. And keep in mind, if there's a toxic situation that you were in, oftentimes that will reflect a lack of being able to set boundaries or a lack of love and self-worth that allowed us to stay in that situation. However, everybody's different, so that's why it's important to take this time to really examine the patterns that you see in these traits, what they say about you, and then we're going to move on to the next step. So the next step of this process, we're going to look, I promise you we're almost done looking at your exes, but we're going to look at those circumstances one more time and the relationship itself, how it started, what it looked like while it was going on, what feelings came up, why it ended. As you look at your list of people, I want you to ask yourself what patterns you see. You can even write them down if you notice a repeating theme. This also might be a repeating theme in terms of the type of person that you were going after. Whatever it might be for you, just take a moment and see if there are any patterns. Now, if you did notice any repeating patterns, or during certain times of your life, if you noticed that you were going after a similar type of person or situation, I want to talk to you for a minute about repetition compulsion. Psychologists say that this is when we continue to repeat a pattern because we're trying to work out some old personal drama that we never got closure on. So for example, let's say that you had an emotionally abusive relationship with a parent. It's possible that you might seek out similar partners in an attempt to try to recreate that experience and get the outcome that you feel you should have gotten in the first place. The problem with this is that it doesn't work. So repetition compulsion causes you further pain as you continue to seek out similar people and experiences, trying to desperately get this result that is just not going to be able to be created. And often when you're pursuing these partners, you're really not even looking at the reality of the situation. You're just drawn to that toxicity because it mirrors something in your past that you want to change and get a new ending for. But that's not the way to go about it, and it's okay. We're going to help you create a healthier blueprint moving forward. Now, maybe in your particular situation, you're not doing this. Maybe at one time you were choosing very similar partners, but you healed from this. So if the last few relationships that you were in were healthy, what you want to do is look back and see why they ended. This will give you some good insights about what you're looking for in a partner that this person couldn't fulfill, or maybe it was a certain circumstance that you noticed really put strain on the relationship that you don't want to repeat again. Whatever it might be, take a moment to look at those relationships, figure out what they taught you, and write those lessons down so that it gives you further insight into yourself. You guys are doing so great. Thank you for following this far into the exercises. So what you're going to do next is get some colors that really call out to your heart, and we're going to list all of the qualities of your ideal partner in as much detail as you'd like. And I would just like to point out that, for example, if you take very good care of your body and you want somebody that is fit, that's absolutely fine, but we want to stay away from writing purely physical qualities down. So for example, you can write that you'd like somebody that takes care of their body and is very fit, but you shouldn't write down like must have dark hair, must have blue eyes. We want to instead focus on qualities of the person themselves, how they carry themselves, their personality traits, things that they value. You want to write all of this down and form an idea of a whole person. Feel free to pause the video to do this, and then when you come back, what I want you to do is look at all of those qualities and then look at what qualities of those that you have and which ones you might be missing. If you remember, in your exes, we also wrote down some of their qualities and we asked ourselves which of those traits that we have. If any of your past partner's negative traits are still with you, we want to write these down and work on healing these within ourselves. And in terms of the qualities you just wrote down for your ideal partner, you want to start to build these qualities in yourself. The best way to have high vibe relationships in our life is, of course, to raise our own vibration and value. When I say value, I'm not necessarily talking about on a superficial physical level. I mean like our inner value. If you want someone that's dedicated and committed to what they do, then you should also be that type of person. This also helps bring like minds into your experience. So if you can't ask for something in somebody else that you refuse to develop in your own self. Nobody's perfect. You can absolutely find somebody that's great for you while you're still building these qualities, but just as an ideal to work towards, these are the qualities that you have shown to really admire in someone else, which means on some level you would like to begin to embody them. Guys, you did a great job job. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. You can come back to this anytime you'd like to do the exercise again, and it's really great to just every so often check in with yourself and see what types of people you're attracting and how that's going and what it's showing you about yourself and what you need to work on. I wish you so much love and light, and I hope you create a life that inspires you to create. I'll see you in the next video.